here's an exact breakdown on how to actually panel your manga pages as a beginner.
僕は漫画家になりたかった。
The first thing that you need to understand when it comes to paneling your manga pages is something called page flow. So the job of page flow is basically making the readers feel like they are drowning in your manga. So basically, when the readers are reading your manga, they are not just reading it, they are actually experiencing the story. And so this will give them the best reading experience ever. So it is very important to have page flow. And the easiest way to do that is by basically making it very clear where the readers should read next. Okay, so let's see in this example right here. You can tell it is very easy to know where to read. So you come in this page, right, and then you read this way, and then boom, this way and this way. And you can already tell that this kind of reading eye line is creating an S shape. We will talk about this later though. But basically, you just have to make it very clear where the readers need to read next. And here's the thing. When you don't have page flow, then it is really hard to read your manga. And so when it's hard to read your manga, your readers will probably just drop it. And when readers drop your manga, you basically failed as a mangaka. And so it is very, very important to have page flow by making it very easy to the reader to know where they should read next. Okay, so the next thing that we have is something called compression and release. So compression and release is basically a technique used in manga to make it way more interesting to actually read the manga. And so the compression technique only means that basically the panels are getting way smaller. So as you can see here, big panel, smaller, 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 very small. And so when you use this compression technique, it will build something called tension in your manga. So the readers will just be very interested in reading what's gonna happen next. And so that's the compression. Next, we have the release, and that's where you actually reveal what you wanted to actually release. And so basically, the panel that you make is going to get way, way bigger, right? As you can see here, it is a very, very big panel where something very important or impactful is happening. So that is the release. So you compress your panels just like here, and once it's done, you show something very, very important. And now we need to combine those things. So the first thing that you do is basically make the first page a compression page. So all the panels just lead up to this small panel right here. Okay, this is what you do in the first page. And then once the reader actually flips the page, or it's on the other side of the page, boom, something big happens, or a impactful moment is there, just something that makes the readers go wow, right? This is basically how you combine the compression and release technique. You make all the panels smaller and smaller, and then boom, big panel. It doesn't only have to be like one entire page. It just could be something like until here, right? Just something big and important. So the next thing that we need to talk about when it comes to paneling your manga pages is something called eyeline. So we've touched on eyeline a little bit earlier when we talked about the page flow, because they basically connect together. But basically, the eyeline is the line that the eye creates while reading. So if we would, read this manga right now, our eye will go from here to here to here to here to here to here to here, right? So this is an eyeline that our eye is creating while we are reading this manga. And so the most common shape used in manga, and the easiest one to create as well, is called a Z shape. So as you can see here, our eye created something like a zigzag, right? An S or Z shape, whatever you want to call it. And this is the most common shape when it comes to, mangas in general from right to left. Now, what is there on the other side? So let's say that you did not create a Z shape. So the other side will look something like this, right? So as you can see, the art is absolutely amazing. Like the page is drawing very, very good, right? But you can't really tell where to read next. So do I go like this? Or how do I exactly go? Like it's all over the place, right? And this will make your page very hard to read. Now, in this page, it's probably done intentionally because it's a very dynamic and, something big is happening. And you can just look at the entire thing as a whole. But usually just sticking to a Z shape will make your life way easier. Because if you don't have a Z shape, most likely the reader will get confused if you're not doing it in a very creative and a good way. The next thing that is very important to understand is that actually less is more. This is so true when it comes to paneling your manga pages. A lot of people think paneling means putting 17 panels in your manga and making every single panel look kind of unique. No, this is not what you have to do. What you have to do is basically just sticking to a few panels, right, and making these panels create a Z shape to create this easy page flow. So as you can see here, it's a very easy page to understand. So like you can go there, boom, 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 and boom. That's it. Like it's really easy to know where to read next. And so that's why less is more when you are paneling your manga pages. Now we've talked about the Z shape a lot, but how do you actually create it? And so that's why there's something called the T shape. Now you're probably like, what? T shape for this Z shape? What do you mean? Let me actually make it very easy for you to understand. So basically a T shape are the job of 3 panels. So either it is 1, 2, 3. So you have 2 panels next to each others. So 2 squares, 1 horizontal panel, or it's 1 horizontal panel and 2 squares underneath it, right? And so as you can see, this structure of panels is creating this exact T shape. And so when you have this T shape, right, we have T shape here, T shape here. When you have that, it is very easy to create the zigzag or the Z shape or S shape. Because as you can see, boom, 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 right? S shape. Boom, 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 right? Very, very easy to recreate. Just make a horizontal panel, then 2 square panels, or 2 square panels, and then a horizontal panel. And as you can see here, when the page it continues with a horizontal panel. So another T shape here, okay? Now the next thing is called focal points. So focal points are very, very important to understand if you want to make your paneling stand out. So focal point is basically the right corner of the page, the middle corner of the page, and the left corner in the page, as you can see here. So right, middle, and left, okay? So these are your focal points. And the reason why these focal points should be at these places is to create this, Z shape again. So this is another way to create your Z shape, because if you have something here, and something in the middle, the only way to read that is by basically using the zigzag shape, because you always have to go back, right? You always have to go back. And these points are called focal points just because the readers are most likely just looking at them most of the time. Because as you can see here, when you first saw this page, you probably looked here, then here, then here, okay? Now let me teach you another thing with this exact page. So line of sight is basically something like the eye line, but is created with the speech bubbles together. So basically we have our focal points, right? And as you can see, the mangaka here have put his speech bubbles here, 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 and here. And so as you can see, all of these speech bubbles are between the focal points. And this is definitely done intentionally, because once you have this structure right here where you have, 3 focal points and all of these speech bubbles between them, then boom, look at this. Boom. It is so easy to read this page because you actually know where you have to read next. You look at this face, okay, cool. Then, you read here, boom, next focal point, read here, next focal point. Done. And so that's basically the line of sight, and you create it by basically putting all of the speech bubbles between your focal points. Now, when it comes to paneling, there are a lot of panel types. So the first one is called a high impact panel. So a high impact panel is basically a full page panel, or basically a double page spread, where something very, very impactful is happening, just like, here. The entire page is used for this scene because this is something that we want the reader to memorize, right? So this is very important to the reader, so we make it a high impact panel. Next, we have the horizontal panel. So horizontal panels are basically just like these panels right here, and they are very easy to follow along, and that's why they are being used all the time in manga, and they can even create an entire page just like here, right? So along with horizontal panels, you can create an entire page. The next one is the square panel type, and this one is the smaller panel, and they have less impact, but they are very important because they need to move the story forward, right? So with having a lot of, square panels, you will see that your story is moving forward the entire time, right? You can't always have your entire manga made out of impactful panels or just horizontal panels, and that's where these square panels come into play. Then the next one is the vertical panel, as you can see here in My Hero Academia, and it is absolutely perfect for adding more speech bubbles when you are talking about a lot of things. So as you can see here, there are a lot of speech bubbles being put inside, or just like another impactful moment that you want to show, but you don't really want to show an entire page for it. Right. The next thing that we have is not really a panel type, but basically just introducing your characters in your panels. So as you can see here, you have an entire full body shot that shows your entire character. And this is something that you do when you are first introducing any character that you want. Next is the passage of time and, just scene change. And this is basically, by adding something that has to do with time. So as you can see here, it's, an alarm. And you can also tell from his eyes and also, the light that is coming from here that he needs to wake up, right? And so because the entire scene changed in this exact place, we can see that the mangaka is showing us the entire room to make us know where this is happening, right? And so every time you change the scene, just make sure that you put a panel with the background on it where you can see the entire character, just to make it clear for the reader where they actually are in the manga. Now, to improve at this, I really recommend you all read a lot of manga, and whenever you see a good panel, just try to analyze it as much as possible and just save it for later. And when you do that, you will have a bunch of references that you can use for your own manga once you're actually doing that. Now, here's the most interesting part of your homework. Make a manga page, right, with the information that you have learned from this video. So using the Z shape, T shape, compression and release technique, line of sight, and all of the things that you have learned in this video, and then share this page that you have made in our community. And if you haven't joined yet, make sure to do that. It's the top link in the description, and you will see the entire homework being explained way more there as a text rather than just me telling you to do it right now. And yeah, that's basically the homework. And if you want to learn more about making manga but you're not really sure where to start, make sure to check our exclusive free guide that we made for you. That is also at the top of the description. See you there.
僕は漫画家になりたかった。